Over 2 years ago, I beat Terraria Master Mode while only using pickaxes as weapons. It was incredibly difficult, as pickaxes were never intended to be used as weapons. Today, I am taking on Master Mode with only axes as weapons and chainsaws, usually only used for cutting down trees and cacti. And this time, I'm making sure to only use weapons with axe power. That means no damaging accessories and no armor sets that will do damage. Just me and a whole lot of deforestation. So starting out in the world, we do start with an axe, the copper axe, which makes things a bit easier for me. It's not often that I get to start with a weapon, and we use that weapon to cut down a bunch of trees. And we try to kill some slimes and a vulture with the copper axe, but it did not go very well. This is not a good weapon. I then headed into a cave, and there is something that I do have to address this time around. In the pickaxe only video, I set out to only use pickaxes as tools, but I did end up using a fishing rod anyway. So this time around, we're not just using axes as our only tool, we are also using pickaxes and all of that, which means we can go spelunk into the caves and dig up some good loot. This challenge would have been a whole different beast if I didn't allow myself to use a pickaxe. After getting a bunch of platinum, I was able to upgrade to the platinum axe, which still is not a great weapon, but it's something. So just kept exploring the caves, gearing up. Eventually I got enough demonite to make a war axe of the night. Now this thing has the word war in it, so surely it does good damage, right? Like, it legit looks like a battle axe. So I then headed over to the jungle with it, and yeah, this thing is not great. But we are in the jungle looking for ivy chests. There's one thing in particular I really want, but it's gonna be a bit difficult to find it. I then died to explosives, and when I spawned back in, the Eye of Cthulhu jumped me, and I just could not beat this guy. I tried my best, okay? It's impossible. But I headed back to the jungle because I really do want something very specific, and eventually I do find the Staff of Regrowth. Now this isn't an axe on its own, but we are gonna want to gather a bunch of jungle materials to turn it into an axe that we can use. And while doing that, we actually find a second Staff of Regrowth, which will actually be helpful to have two of these things, and you'll see why later. And I combine the copper axe that I started with, a Staff of Regrowth, 12 jungle spores, and 3 vines to make the Axe of Regrowth. This thing does 20 damage and has quite a bit of range for an axe. And as you can see, it pretty quickly killed that purple slime. Like, it's genuinely alright of a weapon. So I headed back to the jungle, just farming a bunch of jungle loot, because we still need some more vines and some jungle spores for our second Axe of Regrowth. I found a desert pyramid, and inside it, unfortunately, was just a magic carpet. I would obviously prefer Sandstorm or the Vanity, but you know what? I can't complain too much, but I swear I always get this thing. I then made some houses at the beach, woke up the angler, and started bombing down to find the Aether biome. And since we're on the jungle side, we found the shimmer very quickly. I made some housing here, then I threw one of my Axe of Regrowths in the shimmer. Ever since 1.4.5, if you throw it in the shimmer, you actually get the Axorang. I teleported home and instantly got a chance to use it against the Eye of Cthulhu in a thunderstorm, and the damage with it is pretty bad. It's not a good weapon. It's usually used for cutting down trees very quickly, but it is nice to at least have the option of a somewhat ranged weapon on this playthrough. And at least against the Eye of Cthulhu, it's not horrible, but yeah, it's pretty bad, especially if I miss. The fight was getting very difficult towards the end. I was taking some big damage. He just kept dashing at me, and there was not really any good opportunities to do good damage to it. It got incredibly close so many times, and while it was tempting to nurse heal since the nurse was right there, I don't do that on this channel, so we just gotta keep tanking hits, hopefully survive. We're not even max health here, and we just barely kill the Eye of Cthulhu. That was incredibly close. I'm not gonna lie, the flying carpet freaking clutched that, so that'll teach me for dogging on the carpet once again. Now, I did find the chillet while underground. Obviously, I would normally use the chillet. The chillet is so freaking good, but as I said before, I can't use anything that does damage that isn't an axe. So that includes mounts, and the chillet does do damage with its dash, so I couldn't actually use it. But something I could use is roller skates, which is fantastic movement for us. Then a goblin army invaded, which this was not very comfortable. Axes aren't great for killing goblins, but then again, it wasn't terrible. Axe of Regrowth was actually chopping through them pretty well, and we defeated the goblin army without even dying once. I then found found the bound goblin, and now I'm able to max out my defense as much as possible with warding accessories, and I also reforged my axe orang and my axe of regrowth. I then headed down into the underground tundra, and here there are a couple things I want. The first thing I find is the deer thing, and this will come into play later on, and then not too long after that, we also get a blizzard in a bottle and another deer thing. I then went and fished in the above ground snow biome looking for frost minnows. With that, I could make the most broken potion in the game, the warmth potion. I then explored some sky islands, and I did manage to get some fledgling wings and a balloon for my blizzard in a bottle. I then went into the underground desert looking for primarily a bar statue, and now I decided to clear out a little area in the underground corruption, spawning in the Eater of Worlds. Now the Eater of Worlds I was a little worried about. I didn't know how this was going to go with just an axe, but it turned out that the axe of regrowth, while being very close ranged, actually does a lot of damage to the Eater of Worlds, especially for an axe. I was also taking extremely little damage to the Eater of Worlds considering my defense, and I could basically just tank hits. It was no problem at all. It was dropping hearts. Like, I was not scared of this boss. With a 55 defense, yeah, it was absolutely no issue. So now I can make a nightmare pickaxe, head into the underworld, and dig up a heckin' lot amount of hexstone, which didn't take very long, and now we do have molten armor. And I also made a molten ham axe. You'd think that this thing would be better than anything I have before, better than the axe of regrowth, but it's really not. It does 23 damage, which is about on par as the axe of regrowth, but the axe of regrowth is way bigger and better in almost every capacity. I went back to the jungle looking for a sharpening station. It took a while, but I did finally find it. And I also managed to find a lava charm down here, which means that I can shimmer this into a magma stone. The magma stone allows me to inflict the Heckfire debuff. Now I know I said I can only deal damage with axes, and technically debuffs aren't axe damage, but I did allow damage sources that come directly from the axe. If I hit an enemy with the axe, they get set on fire. And then I headed over to the snow biome and spawned in Deerclops. Under the warmth potion, this thing does virtually no damage to me. It hits for like 1 damage, and it is legitimately not a threat at all. Our damage is not great. Deerclops does have 15,000 health, so we're in here for the long haul, but as we know, if you die to Deerclops, she still sticks around, so there's really no threat, but I'm not going to die to her anyway. The shadow hands are kind of annoying, and getting frozen every now and then is annoying, and I know how to actually fight this boss. It's not a very hard boss. You just got to juke the attacks, but I can just tank it. Like, it's not scary at all. Now, the drop I want from Deerclops is dropped at a 25% chance, and luckily I opened up my first treasure bag, and Lucy the axe falls into my inventory. I just spent practically every last cent I had to get Lucy the axe legendary. Hopefully it was worth it. With not much left to do, I actually spawned in Skeletron under the fall of night. This won't be very easy considering how short range our attacks are. I can use the axe orang for a little bit more range, but it doesn't do very much. But Lucy the axe is actually tearing up these hands. If I can get in and hit them, it actually does a really good job. This is the first weapon in the playthrough that actually feels like a weapon and not just a tool. And luckily I can tank some hits from Skeletron pretty easily. Now we just got to dodge the homing skulls, throw the axe orang at him because I'm not getting in there with Lucy while he's shooting the skulls, and then utilize Lucy while Skeletron is spinning at me, getting some big hits in. And the damage is so respectable. It's a bit hard to get close enough to hit Skeletron's skull here, and it's also hard to time it for when he's getting off of the spinning. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's fine. We have plenty of time in the night. I don't think we're going to fail here. We got heaps of regen, and Skeletron does one last spinning skull move, and I'm able to cut down over 1,000 health of Skeletron like it's nothing. And we get Chippy's couch. Let's go. I then headed into the dungeon. There's only a few things I want here, that being a cobalt shield and a shadow key, which I got very quickly, and an alchemy table. And I also wanted some bones. With the cobalt shield, I made an obsidian shield. The traveling merchant was selling a bricklayer, which is great for us. And I actually forgot completely about this boss, the queen bee. So we're gonna fight it now post Skeletron. And when the queen bee was standing still, Lucy was actually chopping down queen bee. I actually decided to just sit in her and keep hitting her with Lucy, and I just tanked it, and she just kept standing there, and very quickly queen bee was dead. That was one of the easiest queen bee fights I've done. And now it's time to set up an arena for the wall of flesh. Now this was a big elephant elephant in the room. How am I gonna beat the wall of flesh with only axes? It's gonna be pretty freaking difficult. And you might be thinking, oh, CJ's just gonna make a funnel. Obviously, it's gonna be possible with a funnel. But no, I did in fact use a funnel for pickaxes only, and I used a bone glove, which technically I think might have been okay because it came from the pickaxe. But anyway, this time around, we're not using a funnel. I refuse to use one. We will beat this without a funnel or die trying. So I got all the buffs that I needed for this fight, checking all the shadow chests I could for life force potions, and I spawned in the wall of flesh. Now, our first attempt wasn't going so great. We were taking a lot of damage from these hungries and doing no damage to the wall. But eventually, I did whittle the hungry down enough to get close enough to the wall to do a little bit of damage to it. And then I stupidly got stuck on a ledge and just instantly died. And on the next attempt, it got pretty good. I got it just over half health, and I kept attempting it, but I was just taking so much damage, I couldn't get it under half health. So what I decided to do was scatter some heart lanterns. I also decided to make the minecart track much longer because we're gonna need a lot of space for this. And the next attempt was actually pretty good. We got it under 5,000 health, but the issue with this fight is that it gets exponentially harder. The more damage you do to the wall, the more that the hungry hit like a truck and have more health and defense, and there's more lasers and they do more damage. Like, it's just crazy. A new strategy I decided to do was go in, big damage. Once I got low, run away as far as I could, and then just sit still and regenerate. I managed to get the wall down to 1,800 health before succumbing to it. So I just need to tighten up my strategy a little bit, and maybe we'll be able to beat it. And I did manage to get it to 1,100 health before dying. We're getting so freaking close here. And on this attempt, we've gotten the wall to under 5,000 health, so this is a pretty good one. And we get in there, attacking the wall of flesh with Lucy. I was switching between Lucy and the Axe of Regrowth. Axe of Regrowth just has a wider swing, but Lucy just does so much more damage. It is legitimately a good weapon here. It's just so short range. But the wall is getting super low. It's under a couple thousand health. I'm getting so low though, and we're nowhere near a heal. We don't have honey on, so I douse myself in honey, start to get a little bit of distance on the wall. I don't want to get cocky and die. I gotta regen up, so I'm just running. I get down to 6 health. I just barely dodge a laser, and then we get a heal off, and I'm just running, and now I'm far enough that the lasers aren't shooting at me. I've got plenty more space in the world, so we should be fine. We only need to do 1,000 damage. And after a while of running, I managed to get a second heal pot off, but I'm not done there. I want to get that heal back up once again and be on full health before I go in to do this last bit of damage. And that's exactly what I do. I start chopping at the hungry, pushing them back before I can finally get close enough to hit the wall. The wall speeds up, is in me. I take big damage. I get down to 170 health, and the wall has finally been defeated. And we are finally in hard mode. That was one of the hardest boss fights I've ever done, considering I made myself not use a funnel. I then use the demon heart, get a warrior emblem, and I start smashing some demon altars. And while I mine up some hard mode ores, make sure you guys are subscribed. If you're not, hit that subscribe button. I actually found a mimic while down here, which got me a cross necklace, which is goated. But my pickaxe only video, I turned that into a star veil, and we're not doing that. It's just gonna be a cross necklace. It's good that we got titanium because we'll be able to make the best axe we can make. That being the titanium war axe. This thing has gotta be good. Once again, it's a war axe, and it's alright. Lucy does way more damage than it in very specific scenarios. It's just shorter range. I also made a titanium chainsaw. Now, it'll be apparent why I'm using chainsaws instead of just axes in this playthrough. I promise it's not just to make it easier for me. There's an actual reason I am, and I didn't actually use this titanium chainsaw much because it's really not that good. I then farmed some mimics for both money and mimic drop. It was then a pirate invasion, so I just sat in here. This is actually where the chainsaw did come in handy, because I could just aim upwards and they'd take good damage. But Lucy also did work a treat at that. I farmed a bunch of pixies for pixie dust and then went to fight a wyvern. It killed me very quickly. This is not an easy thing to kill. But the titanium war axe does have a decent amount of range compared to Lucy, so it was easier to hit the wyvern. And eventually, with a bit of patience, we did get souls of flight to make fairy wings. And with not much left to do, I spawned in the destroyer. This felt like it was the easiest boss to start with, potentially. The mech bosses are truly going to be very difficult, with weapons that do very little damage, and we have a time restraint. This was what I was worried about probably the most in this challenge, and it was not going very well. We were dying to the destroyer very easily, so I change course, while it was raining, I actually farmed some ice golems. I managed to cheese it with some difficulty, and the first one I killed actually dropped an ice feather, which is completely useless to us now. And we got 3 frost cores, but that's not going to be any help to us against the destroyer, because the destroyer is immune to all debuffs. And on our next destroyer attempt, it actually got incredibly close. Lucy the Axe was doing great damage in very specific scenarios. I did get super low, but even if we lived, unfortunately, we ran out of time in the night before the destroyer was killed. But what I found out is that if I just tanked it, if I just stood in the destroyer, I had a better chance at killing it in time because of how much damage I could do. The only issue is occasionally the head of the destroyer could sneak a hit in and I'd take insane damage. It was much more dangerous, but if we do it this way, we will be able to defeat it in time. I utilized a heart statue just to keep our survivability up. I then also made an artificial crimson biome so that I could spawn in the brain of Cthulhu and get a brain of confusion for even more survivability. So what I do is I just sit grappled, attacking the destroyer, preferably on my heart statue, get as much damage in as I could, and I really got in the groove of it. I was like grappling around to dodge the head. It was pretty epic, and eventually we actually did defeat the destroyer so quickly that time. He got annihilated by Lucy the Axe. Lucy really got that dog in her, bro. She's got not only a taste for wood, but a taste for blood. So now with the destroyer defeated, I switched over to frost armor, and now we're gonna take on Skeletron Prime. This one I figured would be the next easiest. The twins are what I'm really scared of, but Skeletron Prime should be pretty simple. So here I'm utilizing Cursed Flame Flask, Frostbite, and Hellfire through the Magma Stone. And we died pretty quickly. This is actually pretty difficult. We can take some huge damage really quickly, because when Skeletron Prime is spinning its skull, I can get the most damage in, but Lucy the Axe is so short range that it's very easy to get hit by the skull, which does a lot of damage. But we are bringing it down. It is under half health, and we have plenty of time in the night. So I just need to play a bit more safe for a bit, and then we can go in and be reckless again, heal back up, rinse and repeat. It's just really hard to judge how close is too close. But I was getting in the groove. We were getting some damage in. I was getting my health back up. This is where the cross necklace comes into play. Obviously, those invincibility frames have saved me. And after a lot of chipping it down, we finally defeated Skeletron Prime. And now all that's left is the twins. The one I am the most scared of. The twins love to distance themselves from you. It makes it almost impossible to hit them unless they're dashing at you. And when they're dashing at you, they do a lot of damage. And I'm just getting chipped down by lasers and cursed flames, and the debuff is doing crazy damage, and I just can't do too much damage to them. I did finally get Retinazer into second phase, and this is when Retinazer gets really annoying, really freaking hard to hit, because he's just constantly spacing himself out from me. It is so hard to hit him. I have to manipulate my movement by dropping myself down, then going up, and maybe getting a couple hits in. But due to all this, I got whittled down so hard that I ended up dying. I then tried it again, and the same issue happened once again. And again, the same thing. But I realized something. I have actually defeated a mechanical boss. Well, 2 of them. So that means I can go into the underground jungle and search for life fruits now, giving me an Aegis fruit and maxing out my health to 500. This will help a lot with the fight, but not only that, we can also get jungle juice. And not only that, I also found a moth while under there, and that dropped butterfly dust, which I could turn into butterfly wings and upgrade on wings, which is pretty important in closing that gap on Retinazer. I just need to fly up with Ret, and sometimes I'll get some actual good hits in. And finally, Retinazer is down, and it's just Spasmatism left. In hindsight, maybe I should have just killed Spasmatism first, but Retinazer was probably my biggest threat, and now all we have to do is kill Spasmatism. The issue is we're over halfway through the night, and once Spasmatism is in second phase, I really can't go in with my axe while he's spewing the flames. It'll kill me very quickly. So I have to do it while he's dashing at me, and I have to position myself correctly so that I don't take massive damage from Spasmatism, but sometimes I just have to tank the hit. If I position myself correctly, I can just barely, narrowly dodge Spasmatism while hitting him, but I really have to hurry up because it's past 1 AM. There's not much time left in the night. The heart statue is helping me keep my survivability up, but I take some big damage. I'm under 200 health. That debuff is really messing me up. I think I actually said in my pickaxe video that honey actually negates debuff debuffs, implying that it negates cursed flames, but that's not true at all. I just spread misinformation. It does in fact negate poison, and it increases your regeneration, but it doesn't do anything for cursed flames. It's now 3:30 a.m., meaning we have about a minute left in this fight. We really have to wrap this up, but I'm taking some big damage because I know that I don't have much time left and I have to just tank hits, but I really might choke this. It's very scary. He's now under 1,000 health and it's now 4 a.m. So I know I have to kill him right here. I get my last few swings in, I keep my distance from the spewing, and the debuffs actually end up finishing him off. So finally, all 3 mech bosses are down. We can now make the pickaxe axe. Yippee! It's not very good damage-wise, but we can dig up some chlorophyte, and now we have a chlorophyte great axe and a chlorophyte chainsaw, which the chainsaw isn't very good. Once again, Lucy still deals more damage, but the extra range that the chlorophyte one has is definitely nice to have. I then started setting up an arena for Plantera. I'm not going to do a tunnel this time around. Obviously, it's not going to be that helpful because we're so close range. And once that was ready, I spawned in Plantera. I started off trying to use the chlorophyte chainsaw, but it was not easy to use. So I switched to Lucy to see how much damage that was doing. And it was pretty good, but it's kind of awkward because you can't switch directions of Lucy while you're using it unless you'd stop using it, then turn around, then swing it again. So I then changed to the chlorophyte great axe, and this thing was much more consistent. I am able to turn while using it, but yeah, its damage is not great. But our damage doesn't have to be great because Plantera does not have a time limit. We can fight this for as long as we need to. We just need to stay alive. And I'd say I've used worse weapons against Plantera, so we should be fine here. It's just been a while since I fought Plantera like this. So I just kept chopping her down, and I'm not looking too hot. We're under 200 health, and we've got a scary looking Plantera after us, and her little man-eaters are trying to kill me. But I'm basically just going in circles, trying to regen up. My regeneration is pretty crazy. I then threw some dynamite down onto a hive to potentially expand my arena a bit mid-fight, which spawned some bees, which actually gave me some hearts, which was pretty nice. And this was really long, but that's okay. As long as we just don't die, we'll be fine. I did get down really low. Luckily, I did dodge a hit there. And then I managed to get up to full health. And I just need to go in openings and hit her with the axes and then, you know, recycle that. And after a long time getting down low and back up health, we finally defeated Plantera. And that opens up a lot for us. And speaking of opening things up, I opened up Plantera's treasure bag and actually got the axe, which is incredibly rare from Plantera and is an axe, obviously. It's the axe. So it was insane that I got that there. And it's actually pretty good. It does good damage. I think Lucy has finally been dethroned. I headed into the lizard temple, searching all the chests, but we're not going to fight the golem yet. In fact, we're going to make a bunch of solar tablets and spawn in the solar eclipse. Here we're looking for one enemy in particular. When a Mothron would spawn, I'd just teleport to the ocean and teleport back. I don't really want to deal with any of those Mothrons. And we're looking specifically for the Butcherer. And after killing quite a few of them, we finally got our final weapon, our best weapon in this run, the Butcherer's chainsaw. Now this is actually an axe. Well, it's a chainsaw, but it's designed to be a legitimate weapon at the same time. Maybe the only tool in the game that's designed this way. And this weapon is the exact reason why I decided to use chainsaws in this axe only playthrough. It has axe power, so technically it is an axe, but the main reason I decided on using this is because my best weapon without chainsaws would have been the Shroomite digging claw. That thing does good damage for an axe slash pickaxe, since it's both. But the issue with that is the exact weapon along with the laser drill that I use as my best weapon in pickaxes only. So it just would have been a recycle of that. You guys know that we can beat it with that. So that is the reason why I decided to use the Butcher's chainsaw, because I've never used it before and I wanted a chance to use it. So I went back over to the lizard temple and spawned in the golem. And here you can see how good this thing is. I just grappled down, tanked the hits from the golem, and started doing some insane damage. It's really cool because the chainsaw actually spews out these these flames on hits, meaning you do have to hit the enemy very close range, but it does have projectiles when you hit the enemy. And yeah, it was genuinely really good. So I just farmed the golem, getting everything that I needed, and I then made beetle armor for maximum survivability since we're gonna have to get really close. And I then decided to spawn in the Empress of Light. Now this was actually pretty difficult. It's hard to get close to the Empress. She spaces herself out most of the time, except like specifically in like the Sundance attack. And I was just getting knocked around and it was really hard to get close to her. So mid-fight, I went and grabbed the obsidian shield so I could just tank hits and get real close to her. And this was doing really good damage to her. Once she got into second phase, things got a little bit more dicey and eventually we ended up dying. I spawned her in again. I am utilizing feather falls so that I can manipulate my movement much better. I don't have the best wings for this, so it's not the easiest thing in the world, but the beetle armor is helping a lot in our tanking, and first phase is pretty much a breeze. And then once it's second phase, I can actually hit her quite a bit in that opening attack, and then obviously in her Sundance as per usual. But I basically just need to stay alive and we'll be fine, which I very much do not do. The Sundance then kills me, but we got her very close. So I decided I'm actually instead gonna go to the post-Plantera dungeon, and I ended up dying, so I started heading back to it and a Martian probe spawned in. I tried killing it, but I couldn't kill it in time, so now I have to fight the Martians, and I died a lot against these guys. Getting up close to them, in fact, is not a very good idea. I could have got the laser drill here, but I did not end up getting that from these enemies. So finally, after many deaths, we defeated the Martian Madness, not killing any UFOs. And down in the post-Plantera dungeon, I was looking to farm for a Paladin's shield, and luckily the first Paladin I killed dropped it. So now we can make the Frozen Shield, which replaces the Obsidian Shield. And this time around, fighting the Empress, it's feeling better. We're able to take more hits and just do as much damage as possible in the Sundance attack. And while she's doing one of her lance attacks, we finally kill her, putting an end to her reign. And now we have the Soaring Insignia. That's really all I did that for. And now it's time to fight Duke Fishron. I do have infinite flight now, which will make this pretty simple. It is kind of dangerous getting close to Duke Fishron with the Butcher's Chainsaw, but it does do decent damage when I'm able to hit him. And it's kind of a long fight. Eventually it's in second phase. Not much changes. It's just getting hit, doing damage, keeping my distance, then going in close. And eventually it's in third phase. And this I'm just barely able to scrape Duke while managing to not get hit too much. Duke actually does not do a whole lot of damage here, which is pretty great. And I'm just counting 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. He is starting to whittle me down and we can't do a whole lot of damage here. It's pretty slow, but eventually he is defeated. That wasn't really for anything. I just did that so that we can say that we beat Duke Fishron. And for my wings, I couldn't be bothered fighting Empress and Duke a bunch to get the best wings I can get, or Betsy for that matter, because I'm definitely not beating Betsy. So I just made beetle wings and settled for that. I then went and fought the Queen Slime, much past its progression point, but it was actually not the easiest fight in the world. She kept running away from me with the wings, and it was not easy to catch up with her, but I did end up killing her. That was for nothing, it was just for fun. And then I went over to the dungeon and spawned in the Lunatic Cultist. Now this fight was a breeze. It's master mode. I'm not too worried about big hits from something like the Ancient Light. I can literally just stand here, tank hits because of the beetle armor and everything else I have, the insane defense, and just keep hitting it with the Butcher's Chainsaw. It was literally no problem at all. Genuinely a pushover of a boss. Now it's time to take on a pillar. I decided Vortex Pillar is probably going to be the easiest first one, which it was. I just boxed myself, hammered a block, and they were no problem at all. I just killed them all and then destroyed the pillar very quickly. I then decided on Stardust, and this one actually was not super easy, but eventually I started farming star cells and it got much easier like that, and that one is now defeated. Now Solar was a bit annoying. I built a thing up in the air so that I could do it without dying constantly, but it still was troublesome. I still died a couple times, but eventually the shield was down, and that's that. And now the hardest one of them all, Nebula. This one was kicking my freaking butt. Eventually what I did was set my spawn outside the nebula to make this easier on us. And I set up this little cheese. They can't really hit me through this. Sometimes they'll move in to kill me, but it was working pretty well. And finally, all 4 pillars are destroyed, which means impending doom is approaching. When the Moonlord spawned in, I tried hitting its top eye as much as possible, which was not much. And I quickly realized I do not have enough movement speed to even get close enough to the hand eyes to hit them. I legit can't reach them. So I had to teleport home and quickly grab a tabby that I got from the dungeon and put that on for a dash. It's not even master ninja gear, but I just needed a dash. And now we are able to hit the hand eyes. I'm also choosing to hit the top eye once it's open, but it is not easy to be doing damage to it consistently and not get hit by the death laser. Something else that's not easy is stopping these leeches from happening. It is leeching health off of me, and the chainsaw cannot consistently break those leeches because it's so short range. But we are chipping down these eyes. The top eye specifically is getting pretty low now, and I'm trying to balance them all, and eventually the left eye is the first to fall. Now there's a true eye of Cthulhu out while I'm trying to finish off these other eyes, and it's taking a bit, but the right eye is finally destroyed, and now we just have the top eye, which we do defeat. But now's the tricky part. The core is in the middle of the Moonlord, and the Moonlord positions itself with the heart below me, which is really inconvenient because I just can't hit it most of the time. To be able to hit it, I have to be falling downwards, which means I have to keep bringing the Moonlord up and then dropping it down, and all the while I need to not be dying by the true eye of Cthulhu's, and I have to worry about the leeches out healing the damage that I'm doing. We are chipping it down. It is taking damage, but eventually I just take so much damage that I end up dying. And this is basically with a full-on tank build. So I actually decided to make a big tunnel with some power bombs, and you'll see in a minute where I'm going with this. I then upgraded my tabby to master ninja gear and spawned the Moonlord back in. I tried to use the Rusron mount. It was not going well, especially since it wasn't raining, and I just didn't like it. So I switched back to the wings, and we're really chipping these eyes down again. It doesn't take too long for the left eye to be popped out, then the top eye soon after, and then finally the right eye, leaving all the eyes destroyed. And now what I decided to do, now that the core's open, is jump down into that tunnel, and this way I can just consistently hit the core while falling down for ages. And I can do so much damage this way. This gives me so much more vertical space, and I'm just destroying this thing. I'm dodging a bunch of hits, and this way I'm outrunning the true eye of Cthulhu's as well for the most part. We're doing so much damage. It's night and day the difference here. Towards the end of the fight, I actually realized I wasn't even using wings here. I'm just using featherfall. So I swapped out my soaring insignia and wings for a celestial emblem and a charm of myths. But I mean, it was already over. This fight is so easy now. And finally, the Moonlord has been defeated with only axes and chainsaws. I then made a nebula ham axe as our final axe, and well, it doesn't do much damage, but it does cut down trees very quickly. And as a final send-off, I actually decided to cut down every single tree in the world for complete and utter deforestation. Let's freaking go. Shout out to my members, The Mad Potato, Rai Kirin, Unreal Joshua 8, No Tiamo, Salad King 41, Goliathid Gaming YT, and Retrack 41. It's very appreciated. If you want me to read out your name, become a member down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.